As a young kid, my mom and my dad were both pretty bad drunks. Dad dealt with some addiction problems, dealt with a lot of physical abuse, mostly from my mom, to tell you the truth, and mental abuse and emotional abuse from Dad's side, and there was sexual abuse from outside of the home, but just darkness always around me, basically. At 3 or 4 years old, I remember my dad was wailing on my mom, and my sister, who was only 7, had jumped in and tried to help, so she got kind of pieced up a little bit too. And I remember that I didn't do anything, and even though I was only 3 or 4 years old, what could I have done? I remember thinking that I was weak. It just made me feel really weak. I felt like there's something I should have done. Inside of me, the things that was going on at school and at home when I was young, just made me feel so weak. Even from as young as I can remember, I felt like I needed to be stronger. And it put a big, huge chip on my shoulder that just got bigger over time. As far as home life, I was in the woods all the time. Like, that's what I did. I came home, I went to the woods, I came back when it was dark, tried to stay away from my parents as much as possible. After years of being pushed around and bullied around and dealing with every kind of abuse that you could think of, I remember laying on my bed at nights just fed up with being that weak person. I'm not real sure where I got the notion, but I remember laying there and just offering my soul up for the things of this world that I thought I wanted, the things I thought would make it better, which for me as a kid was power, respect, money, women, things like that. I went from feeling weakness to just pure rage and just hatred. Just blind rage is the best way I can explain it. Something just snapped. I remember being at school one day when it happened. There was a particular bully that used to just mess with me every day, and this particular day, when he flipped my chair over like he did every day, I just snapped. I went from feeling weakness to just pure rage and just hatred. Just blind rage is the best way I can explain it. It went from being bullied and picked on and kicked around to just lashing out at anybody I thought was looking at me wrong. Rage kind of started to take over. It just consumed me. I just felt like I was raged out. I was mad all the time. I think I just wanted people to hurt like I hurt. I just wanted people to feel how I felt, I think. Somewhere over that next year, I started drinking a lot of moonshine and taking acid and smoking weed. Since I had offered up my soul to the devil at around 11 or 12 years old and started to get the things that I had asked for, I figured that was just part of the deal, was being doomed to eternal damnation, to not getting into heaven, you know? All I can really remember from that time on is just hatred. I mean, just pure hatred and violence and malice and just a controlling mass of force that just never wanted to stop.
The first no-go hood movie you've ever seen. story. Psycho Bill, a.k.a. Bill.
I used to be drinking and drugging and like, man, I don't know, I just fantasized about hurting people. Like, it was sick even to me, even at the time, it was sick to think about. But it seemed like the only satisfaction I could bring to it was pain. And a lot of times I tried to get pain out of it myself. A lot of the fights that I picked people that I thought were gonna win.
They coming back. Keep recording. Keep recording, big dog. I got him. You scared or what? Break every male you got.
By the time I was 16, I was selling weed. By the time I was 18, I was selling cocaine. Hard off into that. 21, it was methamphetamine, cocaine, mushrooms, pretty much anything I could get my hands on. 22, 23, I'm manufacturing meth. It seemed like the only time that I thought that I had any peace or happiness was when I was so doped up that I couldn't think about anything. So I was pretty much messed up on something all the time. And if not, well, then I was really violent. There wasn't enough violence. There wasn't enough drugs. There wasn't enough of anything to get satisfaction for the hate and the rage that was inside of me, for the anger, for the temper that was in me. There wasn't, nothing sufficed. There's times that I would beat my head into the concrete and then I would smash my hands into the asphalt just to try to numb myself out. At age 25, my daughter was born. Got a full-time job. I tried to quit selling drugs and doing drugs, and it just made me want to be a better person. Made me want to not be the hateful, malicious person that I was. Made me want her to not see me that way. Really kind of reflected on who I was. It was kind of a big mirror in my face to what I was actually becoming.
Hey, you got a soccer ball in your face.
Wait, take that shot. You're a little soldier, ain't you?
Even her birth made me know that there was a God. Whatever my thoughts or opinions on him or what I thought he thought about me was irrelevant at the time. I always knew he had a hand on her. I don't even know how to explain that. I just knew that she was going to be okay.
All right, let's hear Burgundy play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
Me and her mom split up before she was a year old, and right after that I kind of spiraled right back in. It seemed like 4 or 5 times I tried on my own to clean up my act or whatever you want to call it. And every time I failed, and every time that I failed, it seemed like I jumped back harder and more intense into everything. People that I was working for and with and around had gotten to such an extreme to where my daughter's mom wouldn't let me see her or be in contact with her. I knew that the feds had been building a case for a long time, so if there was a possibility that I could get somebody in trouble anywhere I was around. So I couldn't even be around people that I loved, and that was really weighing on me. Just done with life, man. I couldn't see my daughter, I couldn't see anybody I loved. I had nothing. There's no basement to rock bottom. You know, this was my rock bottom. Like this was it. I'd sold my soul, so what that meant to me was that, you know, the Lord had damned me already. I'd absolutely thought that there was no chance, no hope of salvation. Physically, I was really bad. Mentally, I was shot. I rode around with a loaded .40 caliber and drugs on me because I figured that'd be my way out. I always looked at suicide as a weak man's way out, so I would never kill myself, but I figured I'd just wait until they pull me over and shoot it out with the cops and make them do it. So I'm 35, and I'm in my apartment, and I'm thinking about all this, and I fell on my knees and just bawling and burst into tears, which was really, really uncharacteristic of me. And I cry out to the Lord that He's just going to have to take the wheel. I can't do it no more. Since I was so sure that I was damned eternally, I didn't think He was going to hear that. So immediately after that, still on my knees, I told Him, just end it. Just let me get this eternity started, because I truly felt like it couldn't be any worse. So I go through that night. It's about 2 weeks later. I usually didn't go to pick up the drugs that early in the morning because I didn't have a license. I kind of couldn't take it no more. I felt like I was going to start fighting everybody, so I jumped in the truck and I go to where I pick stuff up at. I walk over to the guy's house and he's outside kind of freaking out. Said that somebody had been out in the alley and they had bad feelings. So he took all the dope that I was supposed to pick up and he walks a couple blocks away and he has me sitting at the back of his house and just kind of watch. I've got a loaded .40 caliber on me. I've got drugs and paraphernalia and stuff on me. I sit there for about 10 minutes. Man, my gut was going crazy. So I called him up, told him I was going to go to my truck and get my cigarettes. Whatever it was had me so freaked out, I took the pistol out of my waist, put it in the truck. I put my wallet in the truck. I took all the drugs out of my pocket, threw them in the truck, shut the door. I'm going back. I want to go back to pick these drugs up. I step in a mud puddle. So I literally took my shoes off and threw them in the truck. I've got no shoes, shorts, and a t-shirt. That's all I got on me. I pull the bicycle out of the back of the truck, and I'm riding back over there. And as I'm pulling into his alley, I get pulled over for not having a light on my bicycle. And it turned out there was an old driving off suspended they'd been trying to pick me up for years, and I had to do a flat sentence of 8 months. And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was the Lord that plucked me out of that. That's probably the only 10-minute span in 20 years that I didn't at least have some kind of drugs on me. And then to not even have shoes, I couldn't even have ran. If I would have ran off the bicycle, I would have been barefoot. They were right on the tips of having enough to put me away for my whole life. There was people that wanted to kill me. I wanted to die. If that same cop would have pulled up and I'd been in my truck, we would have been shooting. I mean, that's how I would have died. There's nobody on the face of the planet that can convince me it was anybody other than the Lord. Even without knowing what it meant to be with Jesus at the time, I knew that. You know, they say you get new eyes when you find salvation. None of the old sin held anything for me. The only other thing that I knew was that the Lord was telling me I had to leave that whole area, southeast Kansas, that I had to leave.
Happy 36.
36 again.
We gave you a year back, dude.
So we need to take some pictures.
Question.
I don't ever do this one.
First of all, we fixed the candle and put 37 because he's really old, not just old.
John bought the wrong number. And then I put 06 and grill.
I did
I
it.
don't know who told you that.
I don't know.
Who told you that?
When I moved in with John and Hazel, being around the body that they were around, the first thing I noticed is the way people loved each other. And I don't know, I felt a love like I'd never felt before. I think that was the first time that I noticed inwardly that things were changing. And it kind of, I noticed right off the bat that it had been months since I'd had a violent thought or you know, since I wanted to lose my temper.
Bill moved in with us, and That's when God, I think, really started the process of delivering him from slavery and delivering him from darkness and death. And so we were able to be participants with God in seeing that transformation happen in his life. And I've watched Bill over the last 2 years work through some really hard things in his life, and watched Jesus work inside of his heart and release him from things that were strongholds and wrong ways of thinking about the world and thinking about himself. And I've been able to see God take a big, mean person that you would say before and turn him into a soft lover of Jesus who weeps in God's presence now.
The first week that I was with John and Hazel and we were praying with Jonathan, just the four of us, man, I just started weeping. I just started crying. And I remember asking John, what's wrong with me? Like, how come every time that I pray about something I'm passionate about, I cry about it? Like, what is wrong with me? And he just looked at me with a big old grin. He says, the presence of the Lord.
So we jokingly call him Weeping William sometimes because he weeps in the presence of God. And I love it because Bill's the biggest, meanest dude on the planet. You know, you would never want to say that to his face. But the truth is, that's what God's done in his life. That's how God has rescued him and saved him.
Jesus takes this wicked, evil person that wants to hurt and demolish everything around him, who wants to die and asks for death, and reaches out and saves me from that. And now, instead of hate and rage and anger, has given me a heart of love and compassion. Instead of not being able to see my daughter because of my choices, I can actually talk to her about Jesus now and spend time with her. I know I felt like I was beyond hope. I was out of reach. I had sold my soul to the devil at 13 and done the devil's bidding. So I couldn't have that salvation from the Lord. And knowing that he loves me enough that he would give me salvation, not only lets me know that people that have done what I've done or less absolutely can get that salvation, but it gives me the hope and assures me that even people that have done way worse than that can also be saved. There's no depth of the pit that Jesus can't reach. He's defeated all of it.